public-private community partnership. That is going to be the delivery mechanism. When we deal with this, each of these recommendations to this, what will the private sector, public sector do? What will the private sector do? What will the communities do? Only then, and in the light of the resource constraints, then you are making recommendations that are actionable. Otherwise, we set up platforms going forward. The regional coordinators and the experts from the various states, let's have the platform where we exchange best practices. I'm delighted to hear what you are doing in Imo about these digital skills being given to over about 15,000 people, as it were. Excellent. This is where we compare notes, and people will be able to know how did you do it. Because we are targeting to be able to do much more than that. Like we're laying about 2,000 kilometers of fiber optic ducts that people will have access, last mile connections to high-speed internet at, next to nothing costs and so on. That's part of the foundations to building a digital tribe of our dream, where we could have tens or hundreds of thousands of facilities getting access to digital skills, as it was. So we'll have that platform, and then drill down how do we do this, and also mainstream case studies. Case studies. It will be nice when we do this, compare it to countries, compare it to places. Who do we benchmark to? Who do we want to be better than? How has it happened in Rwanda? How has it happened in Taiwan? Like I just gave this example. Best practices that we can say, this is how they move from point 0 to point 95 within a short period of time. How do we leapfrog the process of this transformation so that it is not, part of what we can do is not tinkering at the margins. Also the issue of leveraging technology. And this is part of what I didn't hear much about. Maybe I missed it. Where the world is entering into the fourth industrial revolution. It's a digital age. How are we going to leapfrog from where we are today to where we need to be at the shortest possible time, leveraging on technology? What is it that the private sector can do? What is it that the government can do? How do we modelize these things to happen? And while we talk about this, the peer review mechanism becomes very important. The peer review mechanism amongst us within the region, and then also with the rest of the country. And again, who are our comparator or benchmarks? Benchmarking is very, very important. Who do we benchmark with? Out to? In Ghana, I remember one of those African platforms that I participated. Someone from Ghana came from Ministry of Education. The other people, I think, from Rwanda, several places. People were speaking. Case studies would be quite nice beyond the shores of Nigeria. And let me just say, first, talking about, you have raised this, which is the fact that Nigeria is a federation. Federal government has its own activities, states and local governments. Even within the state structure, what is it that the local government can do? What is it that the primary school is supposed to be under the umbrella of the of local government? And if you have autonomous local governments, then these things become very, very important. That even as we have these kinds of settings, maybe subsequent ones, we will do quite a whole lot to bring on board heads of local governments and at the table. I see ASOBA is here, but more than that, we will need the local governments in participation. a regional stuff. The issue of within the region itself, where will be our areas of networking, collaboration, and cooperation? Let this meeting not just be we'll finish and we'll disperse. What will be the framework, the platform for continuing networking, collaboration, and cooperation? Sharing of best practices, comparing notes, encouraging one another. Even, for example, in the area of curricular review, everybody talks about curricular review. Can we as a region even have a joint team on curricular review? We're trying to do that in Anambra. But there's no point reinventing the wheel. We benchmark, get onto economies of scale, Let's pull these things together. There's no need reinventing the wheel. We can all meet together, these 5 states, come and review this. And we might think, okay, if we need to teach history, what is the history? What will be the content of the history that we'll be teaching? Yes, these are the kind of things we need to, the Nigerian educational system largely tries to prescribe common standards instead of prescribing minimum standards. Try to provide common standards. No, they should provide minimum standards and leave everyone else the latitude to be able to extend or lower or expand vertically or horizontally. And who says that you can't have a Southeast education board, examination board, to certify people in certain subjects, in certain areas, even if it's not in the national curriculum? Who says that you can have that? If you, depending on where and how that operates, it might end up that that regional one might become even the one that the rest of the world want to look at rather than the one that you have out of it. So all I'm trying to say is that there is latitude for us to think as a region. Now that you have a regional framework, we're thinking of this in region. Let's get together and get these things to happen. Now, talking finally about this labor force participation, I want to suggest something to you. I hear what you said there, I will get this. Again, government-centric, very government-centric. But it's quite much beyond this. Yes, we're training so thousands of people that will be getting this and so on, but that's a drop in the ocean. That's a drop in the ocean. It's labor force participation thing. It's a holistic thing. If you have a dying economy, there will be no labor force. You'll be thinking in terms of how many jobs government are employed in government. How many people can you employ in government? It's a wider stuff. Even as a region, as a country, let me say as a country, the best way you can have all this training, digital skills, you are giving them all kinds of skills and so on and so forth, and they empower them and they go and produce something. And what happens? The easiest way, the most important way you can induce or push up local labor force participation, let us start individually and as government to patronize the things that are made by our innovators and by our own producers here. Yes. If we don't patronize them, how will you create jobs? If we don't eat the food we produce, and we're looking for the packaged food from the rest of London and America and all of that, team food and so on, that give you cancer anyway, and so on. You leave the organic food that our people produce out there and we're eating all this poison as it were. And then how will that farmer be encouraged to go to produce more? How will that graduate go into farming? How will with all his skills? The textiles in the Southeast have all closed down. The only textile in the entire Southeast is the one that produces what I wear. Akwete. And you guess what? The people that make this happen to be women. The women of Akwete from Abia State. Akwete is the name of their community, and it's also the name of the cloth. This is handmade. It's my brand. That's the only thing I wear. Yes, and when I wear it, it's not just a fashion thing. I'm making a statement. So when we say labor force participation, this and that, this is the practical of it. And when we began that, the women started becoming richer because the demand for Akwete, and the ones that were selling 15 or so went to 20, from 20 to 25, they couldn't meet the order. And I'm sure they're expanding now. That's how we do it. At that point, you can talk every bit and so on. Just one stuff that happens in the private sector. Can you imagine if 200-something million Nigerians, we all patronize nothing but textiles produced in Nigeria? You will, in a period of a year or two, create tens of millions of jobs. That's no rocket science. But if we have to import made in, my own is this one, it's made in these shoes, they are made in Obunike there. Buy it, they will make more and employ more people. Who are we trying to impress that we're able to buy? Well, I go buy Louis Vuitton. I go buy this one, I go there. Come on. Yes. So that is the human capital, that is the labor force participation. We eat what we produce, we wear what we produce, we patronize made in Nigeria, made in the Southeast, made in Anambra, then we create millions of jobs. And then encourage people to go into production. If people are not producing, there will be no employment. That is one point I leave with you. And finally, yes, I had reference to the fact that we employed 5,000 teachers. The story is not so much for human capital development, yes, and we're employing about 300 professionals in the healthcare to end the era of hospitals without requisite professionals and schools without teachers. But that's a deeper message, which is, dear friends, the concept of labor force participation in a federal structure. Nigeria is supposed to be a federation. And one of the things where you are a country is that labor force should be able to move across boundaries. Labor force mobility of the labor force. I should be able to move from here. The teacher should be able to move from here, get to Ogun, and be employed, and vice versa. That's what makes it a federation, a country. But if you can't go from, if someone from Imo cannot come to Anambra and get a job, be employed in the civil service or as a teacher, and vice versa, or go to Enugu and get that, and vice versa, then all this is grammar. All this is what? Grammar. It's nothing but grammar. The major lesson of our example in this teacher recruitment, we wanted to also make a statement to the country. We made a statement to the country by saying, listen, first and foremost, the job, the teaching job, is you should never be given a teaching job by who knows. By the best teacher in the world, not in Nigeria. That's the interest of the child. The child doesn't care where the teacher comes from. The child only cares to be taught by the best teacher. And then second, we then said, for this country we talk about merit. And that we're a federation. Labor force should be mobile across boundaries. Let's demonstrate that in Anambra. And when we employ these 5,000 teachers strictly on merit, they went for the first exam from 40-something thousand that applied, shortlisted about 16,000. Second exam went to 8,000 plus. They went through panels of interviews. And those three scores were averaged out. And about 8,120 of them that made it in the final thing, the list was published. I'm giving this detail because it is a major takeaway, not just to other states in the Southeast, but the entire country. This thing was published, and then I told the two bodies making the recruitment, if I, as governor, if I give you any name, rumple it and throw into the dustbin. I gave them an example, whoever in the world gives you a thing, and if I find out that you recruit somebody that is not on the basis of this performance, I will disgrace the person out of my government. And you know what? They published 2,500 for secondary school, 2,500 for primary school. And so the entire public, whoever took the exam, could now examine themselves. This is the list of those taken. Here is the master list. If you know you are qualified, you ought to be in the list, and you are not there, you come and complain. It's the most transparent. And you know what? Your state of origin did not matter. That is the message. That is the message. And I'm saying, comparing this message to whether ECOWAS rep and our national coordinator. This message you must take to the country. This message we must take to our country. If state X has shortage of qualified teachers, why wouldn't they take the Imo state that has too much surplus? Yes. And I'm saying this because there was a time here in the Southeast, people were even throwing out, retrenching teachers and civil servants. They said they are non-indigents. That they are non-indigents. I'm about appointing some PAMSECs now, and I have seen two of them who are very promising. Very, very promising. Of course, they will still go for my final interview. But I've seen in the short list, I've seen people who are not from Anambra. And if they make it, if they demonstrate that they make it, I will appoint them PAMSECs here. This is the future. If we're talking about this labor force participation and all of that, this must be what we will have to mainstream in the country. This is federation. If you go to the United States, people begin to say, I'm originally from Maryland. I'm now a New Yorker. Because you shift there, you get a job, and you become, whether in the civil service, public service, or here. Here we say we're a country, but the Imo man will not be here. No, you are from Imo. Go to Imo. You are from Anambra, go back to Anambra. Even in the Southeast, the former East Central State, I did my primary school here as a citizen of East Central State. And all of a sudden they split all these things. This one now, this one, that, and that. In my primary school, I was taught by people from all these 5 Southeast states. Even one of my teachers from Mbise, she's alive, Dr. Mrs. Membrin, she visited me here the other day. My primary 3 teacher. you know? Yeah. She was here the other day. Lovely. I was taught by two of them from business. My primary 1 and primary 3. My primary 5 from Ngwa. Then my primary 6 from Anambra here. My primary 2 from Udi in Enugu. And of course my primary, my primary 4 is Udi. It's my primary 2 that is from Example in current and where was my primary school? In in the current Ebonyi state. All of a sudden you wake up, they have split all of this. Now, the man from Imo is now different from the one from Enugu. The one from Enugu is different from, no, you are not from here. I think this is that particular theme on labor force participation. I'm throwing up things that your team, madam, you take it to NGF, you take it to the federal government, you take this and so on and so forth. We cannot be dealing with labor force in a federation, in silos, in buckets, and so on. Unemployment here is there because you fail to allow people from here to get across to the other place. There is unemployment here, but there is underemployment. People are not, there are no labor force here, but they will recruit people from here because they are not from their place. No, that is not a country. You know, I'm just throwing out things that are not on your recommendations, but which we must need to address. What we have done here, what we are doing here, is to be able to mainstream some of these principles. And as we test them, we show that they work. It's just the will to make them work. And where there is a will, there will be a way. I want to end by once more thanking all of you. You've done such an admirable job over the last 2 days. You've got us thinking. These recommendations, I will read them with very keen interest and see which of them we are going to take. But you see the way our mind is working. What I say is, I remember one political party in the 80s, in the early 79, 83. Its slogan was one nation, one destiny. So for Southeast, I also say one region, one destiny. And all these artificial borders that have been created around this country and within the region, they will not take us anywhere. Let's come together. Let's come together. Share experiences. Build common institutions. Who says that the Southeast, even for this teacher training, teacher certification, that we can bond together and set up one world-class institution for training and retraining and recertification of teachers? Who says we cannot do that? Yeah. But if each person has to take my village, my territory, come on. In my own eyes, I don't see those boundaries. And for the greatness of Nigeria, we must not see those boundaries. Thank you very much, and God bless you.